Hello, hello, possums. Yes, it is I, the conspicuous moo. Back again after a short hiatus because I've been doing some research, very important business, about Darrowshire, or Darrowshire, or Darrowshire. Whatever you wish to call it. It is a vanilla private server that's been up for a little over 5 weeks, has been attracting a bit of attention and a little bit of controversy along the way. So, I'm interested in this sort of thing because I really did enjoy Classic, and like I've said before, it is an itch that I would like to scratch again, but I'm not really sure I can do it with Blizzard Entertainment in its current condition. So I had a look around for a few days, and these are my findings. Now my basic objective is to get up around about level 20, and then, I'm going to start as a Night Elf this time and not going to do another Gnome. I'm going to go through Teldrassil and do most of Darkshire. I did actually, my first 60 on Classic was in fact a bear tank, so I'm going to go down that path again, then I'll move across to Westfall and see if there are any NPCs that are still alive, and just sort of generally test things out and see if there's anything massively different from the Classic servers. So there are a few things that they've talked themselves up about for their particular server. Honor is going to be available on launch, and Battlegrounds will be released 1 month afterwards. Now that is true as of, this is currently I think in patch 1.5, so Battlegrounds are now live if people wish to go into them. There is no honor decay, so that is definitely a very, very good thing for those people who want to get rank 14 in vanilla, which is quite the journey. Usually if you don't do anything, then your honor decays over time. This is going to keep it static, but the actual ranking points required are going to be slightly larger to compensate for that, so you're going to have to still work very hard to get to that max level. It is 1 times XP, so there's nothing like that. The world buffs have been removed. They say that they're going to basically update the gear as we go along. Gear underwent quite a number of changes during vanilla, so that gear will change as well as we progress through the different patch cycles. They have reworked the battleground system, so you can get more likely matchups. It does have to be pointed out, this is a PvP server, so you're going to have PvP out in the world and in the battlegrounds. The talent respec costs have been reduced to 10 gold. Because it can go up to 50 on vanilla clients, which is extraordinarily expensive in just general vanilla terms, for most people anyway. And they've also said that they're never ever going to put up a shop. So good. That's one up on Blizzard for starters. You kind of get, I can't shake the feeling that Classic Fresh will come out and you'll get a free exclusive Dawn Saber or something. One for Classic, one for TBC, and then another one for retail that flies. Because why not? It's Activision Blizzard. So much for the features that they are promoting. Now, my background is I was never in vanilla, but when Classic came out, I was there on the first day, and I got in there and I had a lovely time. So I'm aware of a version of vanilla. And so a lot of my stuff is going to be based upon the experiences I had in Classic. So if I'm going to point out a few flaws and inconsistencies and stuff from Classic, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is inaccurate. This is a vanilla client, very, very much so. So if I am making major mistakes, and that's how it was in vanilla, you idiot, please by all means point those out in the comments. So what's the leveling and combat experience like? It's pretty much what you would expect from a vanilla client. You've got the combat system seems absolutely fine. The music and the ambience is there. The sound effects are there for the most part. There are a couple that are missing. Just going over the auction house and stuff, it does seem to be, relatively active. It's not as active as my PvE server in Classic, I don't think, but, there aren't any ridiculous prices for everyday goods or anything. There are certainly enough people on the server, at least at the moment, to have a decent working economy. As for seeing people around, this is a European server, so your mileage will vary. Definitely if you're an Australian. There aren't a lot of people around at your prime time because everybody else is fast asleep, but if you get on in the mornings in Australia, then there are plenty of people running around and just sort of generally hanging around and flexing as you do. And there are so many gnomes on this server. It must be the racial that does it. However, while playing through this, I did encounter an awful lot of bugs, and considering that I was only really in 3 zones, there are quite a lot of things that are very, very different to the classic experience, or are just plain annoying. So some sound effects are missing. Sometimes when you go into combat, they don't play at all. Some mobs, when they die, make no sound whatsoever. So there are mute people here. They can't express themselves in any way. So that's a bit disappointing. Quest objectives sometimes double up on the right hand side of the screen. That's not a big thing, but it's like that could have been picked up fairly early on in QA, I feel. Now, my machine is by no means, the best in the entire world ever, but it does have a 6GB video card, and it should be sufficient to run a 2004 client. But I did get a lot of stuttering and screen tear while playing it as well, and this was on max settings and on minimum settings. So when I went to the default, the same thing, same problem. The long distance rendering is, I don't know, it's like it's a long distance draw thing, but you get a bit of terraforming effect in the background, which is actually quite jarring when you're playing as well. And these are issues that you spotted in Teldrassil while you were just leveling up in the first place. There does seem to be some sort of debuff overlap problem as well. When you're in Darkshire, you come across rabid thistlebears. There are quite a lot of them. You need to kill 20 of them, and every once in a while you will get a rabies debuff that lasted for 10 minutes. Quite annoying, but as long as you have a priest or a paladin around that can cleanse it off, it wasn't too much of a big deal. The rabid thistlebears on Darrowshire will cast that constantly. It's not an every once in a while I'm just going to give you rabies. It's I'm going to give you rabies even if you already have rabies, so you can rabies while you rabies. So you probably, while you're doing that part, you're just going to have endless rabies. And it simply won't end. And if you bump into a bear, you have a 100% chance to get rabies again. I don't think that's the way it's meant to go. They're casting it a lot more frequently than they should, and they're casting it even when I'm already rabid. I don't understand why that's a thing. I did notice a lot of the mob pathing was a little bit off. Some of them just appeared suddenly instead of just walking along. The quest missed, though you could complete it. It was bugged at the end, and the bear quest, they're supposed to actually come into the cave, and they didn't do that. So stuff like that, just little niggles. And there are other things like forest riders not fleeing. The young ones in Darkshire, the ones around level 10 to 13ish, the fledglings are supposed to flee, run away in fear, and they don't do that. So it's like, okay, that's not so much of a big deal. Moonstalker ruts are a big deal, because the ones that should be level 10 to 12 are in fact level 17, and they are plonked bang in the middle of all the 10 to 13. So you're going around as a level 12 doing your normal questing things, and then you get a mob that's 5 levels above you and have to run away. And it's not actually limited to one Moonstalker runt. I mean, these things become regular Moonstalkers at level 14, and they become sires by level 17, so these runts are much bigger and stronger than they should be. And it does mean that you'd be running away from mobs that you shouldn't really have to. So, these are all small things, but they are accumulating into annoying bugs which are not like the classic client that I experienced, and are probably not like vanilla either. I doubt they would have left those in, but if they did, like I said, let me know. Another one that paths incorrectly, according to my memory anyway, is Murk Deep. Now, if you remember, Murk Deep is a quest about level 16, 17-ish, where you go down to the southwest coast of Darkshire, and you have to basically defeat waves of mobs of Murlocs, and then finally the final one comes up and you can attack them. Now, usually they're supposed to just run to the huts, but these ones just came straight for you, which was a little bit surprising, and it cost me a few runs back in ghost form. So I'm not sure if that is intended or not, but it's certainly annoying. In the course of my, 3 evenings adventure in Darrowshire, I didn't see a single fishing pool. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not there. Maybe there's some really, really avid fishers on this server, but I thought I would see at least one in around 20 hours of playing, and I didn't. So, yeah, that was odd. Now, I took mining and engineering, and, all of the professions worked fine. All the first aid. I got first aid up to, I think, 80. I got cooking up to 100, no problems at all. I got the mining and engineering, I think, up to around about 50 or so. They all seem to be fine. There were a couple of mining nodes which were just in very, very odd places, and didn't actually show up on the minimap, as they should do when they're being on detect. So, yeah, but you know, that wasn't too big of a deal. Now, if you're a druid, you are supposed to get letters from your trainer at levels 14 and 16 for the Cure Poison and the Aquatic Form quests. They did not appear, so I don't know if that was a classic only thing or not, but yeah, I would have expected the letters, and I didn't get them. Incidentally, the mailbox only holds items for 3 days. I'm not sure if that was a vanilla client thing as well. I'm more used to the 30. That might just be a classic thing again. In terms of mana and health regen, it does feel a little off. It does feel like the 5-second rule for mana regen is a little generous, and the health is less so. Now, I realised that I had rabies for a large part of my testing, but even when I didn't have rabies, health seemed to regenerate a little slower than I think it did on Classic, but that's more feeling craft for me, really. My favourite thing, which it was very unexpected, but you know, once I finally got into water, I found out that in Darrowshire you don't just, you know, press the space bar and gently swim upwards. You jump swim. So I'm sure that was not a vanilla feature. It's very odd to look at you bouncing around inside the water as you're going up. But you know, that's just another thing where it's like, if you tested this at all, you should have noticed that fairly early. And you know, a lot of these bugs aren't game breaking. Some of them are a bit annoying, and some of them are a bit immersion breaking. But you know, there are quite a lot of them for, you know, I mean, that's only really up to level 19, and I'm finding all of these things which are a little bit jarring. So a little more care and attention would have been nice. If we go into the interface and enforcement, we are talking about a vanilla client here now. It's not a classic client, and yes, there is a difference. The classic client is based much more off the modern retail version, which means you can know it's very easy to make mouse over macros and all the rest of it. It is substantially more difficult on a vanilla client because it's not as updated, and it has different formats. In order to get a mouse over macro, it can be done, but you know, as this example shows, they are. I mean, this is one I found on the internet that actually works, and I just put it on for Mark of the Wild. But you know, the API is older. It's different. So I wouldn't bother trying to port across any of your standard classic macros because they won't work. Same thing with add-ons. I did for testing. I think I got classic UI, weak auras 2. Details, druid bar, so you can show the mana bar because it doesn't show in forms, all that sort of stuff. None of it worked. Absolutely none of it. I just got enormous error boxes. I wouldn't bother even trying to run any classic add-ons. I don't think any of them would work, and even if you could get them to work, it's probably going to take you more time than is absolutely necessary. There are resources out there for getting vanilla client add-ons as well, so I would go for those. But you will need to do a bit of research, and yeah, the macro thing is a bit of a ball ache. Now, there are a few restrictions as well that are placed upon new players. I found out that I couldn't basically macro anything until I was around about level 8 or 9. This is presumably to stop people, you know, making macros with gold selling and all the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, I had Talk and Whisper restrictions fairly early on, and they seem to disappear around about level 8 and 9. So, you know, for me, that's fine. The thing I was less happy with was the ban announcements. They have a system message in red that says X has been banned for reason, botting, whatever. I don't need to know that stuff. Community-wise, well, it is a PvP server. Enough said. Okay, we'll move on. No, what I generally find with PvP servers is that, you know, people tend to be a little more competitive, and the only people who are more capable of shithousery than your enemies are your actual allies themselves. So, you know, generally speaking, you know, when I was going in and around, I had a lot of cooperation. I made groups. I had one sarcastic mage in all of my little adventures. People were buffing each other, people were thanking each other, everyone was very polite. But of course, you know, we're talking about the first 20 levels where you don't really encounter any PvP at all. You know, Teldrassil, Darkshore, Westfall are all green zones, so, you know, you won't get flagged in those. I did go into a couple. Of course, I did the Wetlands run. As every Night Elf has to do, you have to run through Wetlands. I only died twice. I was very pleased to get all the flight paths for Ironforge and Stormwind, and you know, I didn't encounter anything there. I had to do a quest as part of the Deadmines quest chain. You have to go into Red Ridge Mountains, which is a fairly notorious area for PvP servers sometimes, but I didn't encounter any difficulties there. I did encounter a couple Horde Druids when I ported across to Moonglade for Druid quests, but they left me alone. And there is a kind of... nothing's down on paper, but it's kind of an unwritten rule that Druids leave each other alone on, any server in that particular Moonglade area. Of course, if you decide to play in the server and you go above level 20 and you start entering contested zones, you need to be aware of the realities of a PvP server. It is highly likely that you are going to be ganked constantly, and you are going to be griefed. You are going to be camped. There is going to be zone disruption. Your quest NPCs are going to be killed, kited, sheeped, and all the rest of it. Because it's a PvP server, and this is where general shithousery is absolutely allowed. So, expect the opposing faction to make your life as miserable as possible. This is the reality of a PvP server, and it's really up to you whether or not you like that kind of gameplay. A few days ago, Darrowshire encountered its first sort of set of drama. Basically, the Horde got a little bit bored, came over to Westfall and completely destroyed Sentinel Hill, started killing all the quest NPCs, and, the Defias Traitor and the Defias Messenger, so none of the Alliance players at the low levels in that zone could actually go on and complete the Deadmines quest chain. And that's... for me, that is absolutely fine, because that is what I would expect my enemies to do when you're at war. You want to make things as difficult as possible, kill, pillage, maim, and terrorize. This invasion caused a lot of angst and grief, and eventually, basically it was classified as griefing and people were punished. So, there's one side saying, well, you've ruined the entire server because nobody wants to level here now, and there's the other side saying this is a PvP server, get good. For my part, I'm, even though I'm not a PvPer at all, I am on the get good side. You get what you sign up for, basically. You can't really complain about being, one-shotted. It is an inherently unfair environment. So a lot of this is also kicking off on the Discord, but, at the end of the day, the Discord looks like a whole bunch of people who are just flinging poo at each other, because that's what you do on a PvP server in the first place. So, yeah, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary sort of Discord-wise either. I mean, everyone's saying, oh, the Horde's got a terrible reputation here, etc., etc. No, the Horde are being Horde on a PvP server, so, if you don't like it, then get your Alliance buddies together and fight back. Stop whining. So far, Darrowshire mostly works for the first 20 levels. I didn't really encounter any problems because, I didn't really get into the contested areas yet. But, it's up to you whether you join. Now we're going to get into the legalities of it all now. So this is a private server or a pirate server, whatever you want to call it. And they are illegally using the intellectual property of Blizzard Entertainment. So this server is based in Central Europe. It's actually in Germany, I believe. So I'm not sure if it's completely safe from litigation from Blizzard. If it turns out to be successful, it's much more likely to be pursued by Blizzard, because they don't like that. Hello, Nostarius. But, at the end of the day, if you, create an account and you log in and you have a bit of fun, the FBI are not likely to kick your doors in anytime soon. My doors are absolutely fine. There is always the risk when you have a private server that they are going to be taken down, and everything, all the time you spent and everything is going to be lost irretrievably. That is the risk you're going to take, and there's not really much that can be done to mitigate that. As to the ethical dimension, should you be playing a pirated game versus should you be playing Blizzard Entertainment's version? That's a decision you're going to have to make on your own. Personally, at the moment, I have given Blizzard Entertainment thousands of dollars over the years, and I've had 3 days in a pirate server. I think, I think it's okay to give it a go. And if I was to continue, then at the moment, considering the state of Blizzard Entertainment and the fact that they're not really looking after their workers and they still seem to have a sexual harassment issue going around them, I don't really have much of an issue playing on a private server. But, your mileage will vary depending upon who you are and what you value. So, to summarise Darrowshire, if you like PvP servers, if you're used to them and you generally enjoy them, or you want to try them out and get frustrated, then, Darrowshire is going to be quite a decent fit for you, at least, in the beginning. But, if you don't like PvP servers, it does seem that the opposite factions are, fairly active, from an Alliance perspective. The Horde are definitely around and about, and they're being complained about, so they're definitely having an impact. there are an extraordinary amount of bugs. Now, are they bugs because of the way that this has been put together, or are they bugs because the vanilla client just had those bugs there in the first place? I can't really say, but you know, if you can overlook some of them, then you should find a reasonable home to just play around in vanilla. But it's not top quality, let's be honest. There are plenty of things that, you know, I didn't get to test. I didn't test the battlegrounds or anything else like that. I just went for the leveling experience, and you know, I had a wonderful time back in vanilla again. You know, I really enjoyed Classic. I love Darkshire. It's my favorite place to be in vanilla, and you know, I really enjoyed getting my my little bear up to 19. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm personally unlikely to return to Darrowshire because you know, if I got that bear to 20 and I went into Darkshire and, you know, got ganked constantly, and, you know, I'd log off for an hour, log back on, and the guy's still there waiting for me to respawn, and he just follows me around for a day, that's not my idea of fun. You know, I'm not a great PvPer. I would have to get interested in world PvP and battlegrounds in a way that I've never ever been in World of Warcraft, and I don't think it's likely I'm going to start now. So I mean, I'm really sort of hanging out for a PvE version that's actually good. So if you know any, then by all means give me a honk. The other private servers around and about at the moment that are being talked about are of course Kronos. I think Kronos 4 is about to launch. And Turtle WoW as well is getting a little bit of attention. That's a very different project altogether. Turtle WoW is actually, you know, adding additional content. It's like a Classic Plus, but for vanilla, you know, they've added additional adventures and quests and all the rest of it, and other things like barbershops. You know, if you go to the website, it's quite extraordinary the amount of work they put into it. It is a relatively low population though, so you know, keep that in mind if you want to be part of it though. You know, I might pop in and have a look because it's a very different approach to doing a private server, and I'd like to have a try. So there you have it, Darrowshire. Like I say, my actual playing enjoyment of the game itself is great fun. You know, the bugs, the PvP, all of that stuff, not so much. But you know, it was a nice few days just pottering around in my little bear form. And that's it for this video. I will be back relatively soon, but until then, I am the conspicuous Moo, and to Darkshire with you.